begin. Please sit. Welcome, everyone, to this blessedly shaded thicket under these two twining madrone trees as we witness the marriage of Natalie Rose Babcock and Samuel Blue Gibson. It occurred to me last night at the rehearsal dinner down by the stage at Inglehaven Ranch, as I stood among the laughing throng of beloved family and friends, that the scene evoked images of what heaven must surely be like. And as new arrivals made their way down the hill to join us, they were met by great cries of hurrah, as we exulted in the reunion of love this happy occasion offers us all. And though they may be invisible, let us remember who else is here with us to cheer: members of the extended Reed family, the Gibsons, and the Babcocks, who are most certainly with us in spirit as we gather here today. A couple of months ago, a message mysteriously appeared on the bunkhouse blackboard at the ranch. It reads simply, "It was preordained that Nat and Samuel meet. Let us rejoice and celebrate." I had the great privilege a few days ago to talk with both of them separately about how they found each other and how they understood the treasure they had stumbled upon. Once upon a time, in early 2015, they were both living in San Francisco. Nat was in a colorfully inviting little apartment with her dear friends, Lily and Sophie, teaching in a private preschool. She was dating and having fun and not really looking for anyone. She was. And Samuel was only about 4 blocks away in what he describes as a grotty room, a small place, dark and dismal. He drove the same route back and forth to Stanford, where he was teaching and finishing up a PhD in Latin American studies. But his heart wasn't in it. It was a placeholder, he said. He was waiting. What he really wanted to do was write screenplays. He was writing screenplays. He thought perhaps he'd return to London. His father had died recently, and he was in low-key mourning, sleepwalking. He wasn't impressed with America or American girls. He wasn't dating. He was waiting, he said, for the mountain to come to him. And it came in the most unlikely of places, a San Francisco boxing gym he'd been going to for a few months. He had bright pink gloves, boxing gloves, hot pink, Nat would later say. And Sam thinks now perhaps he was subconsciously putting out his peacock feathers. Mating season down at the gym. He admits he had more style than substance. Looked good, do all the right moves, fairly useless with impact. And one day, 3 beautiful young women walked in, Americans. Natalie, Sophie, and Lily sidled up to a bag near Samuel, who was sparring alone. And soon he was boxing with either Sophie or Lily. The memory is blurry, no one really remembers. But what was not blurry were the whoops and hollers from Nat and either Sophie or Lily as they egged on the competition. It was all very intimidating, Sam recalls. Nat remembers thinking that Samuel was cute, and even more importantly, that he would be a part of her life, that something was going to happen. She recognized him. They said a brief goodbye to each other that first day at the gym, and then Sam came back the next week at the same time, hoping to see her again. But it was 2 weeks before she showed up. And soon they were biking home with each other. And one afternoon, Nat invited Sam to her upcoming garage sale. And he showed up at the end of the day, fashionably late, and they had a PBR on her stoop. Nat remembers she was wearing half the things she was trying to sell. A crazy dress, a green dashiki, Sam says, a huge hat, a cap, according to Sam, and sunglasses. And as they sat on her stoop, Nat realized that her legs were fully hairy, and she tried to tuck them under her so Sam wouldn't see. They began to spend time together, mostly dates at bars with a lot of easy chatting and laughter, though it turns out Nat couldn't understand half of what Sam was saying between the mumbling and the accent. Sam thinks part of the reason she came back was in case what he'd been saying had actually been interesting. It's the not knowing that keeps you, he said, the cliffhanger. Nat says he was the smartest person she ever met. Their physical intimacy was fiery, connected, and fun. Early on, Lily took Nat aside to say, "I love hearing you two laugh late at night in your room." And Nat was unfazed by Sam's dingy digs, declaring it has character. But 3 months into the relationship, Nat still had no idea what Sam was really thinking, except that perhaps he'd return to London when he was done with his doctorate. Then nature intervened. Nat had a sudden health crisis and had to be hospitalized. Nancy was by her side, but Sam seemed to disappear. Nat didn't hear from him for a day or so, and she was deeply hurt. She decided she needed to back away. She disinvited him to an auction at her school, and he was thrown. "I was looking forward to it," he said. And that, says Nat, is the first time I knew what he was feeling about me. And then it all came out. How she felt abandoned when she was sick, how he thought she just wanted to be with her family. "I didn't know what to do," he said. "You've never told me anything about what you're thinking," she said. "How do you not know what I'm thinking?" he said. For in fact, he couldn't resist her. She was undeniable. And she was so good with other people, with women. And his mother had always said, "Be careful of women who don't have other girlfriends." And she had so many girlfriends. And she called them her girlfriends. To him, Nat seemed a big, burning, bright planet that everyone was oriented around. And he was in shock, he said, when he realized he'd misread the relationship, that he'd projected something he hadn't meant to. And he wept, realizing he almost ruined it, almost lost her. And they both described this conversation as their come to Jesus moment. Things got solid very quickly, no going backwards. Now they both knew what each other was thinking, and it matched perfectly. And when I asked them what they both valued most about each other, they offered up a powerful image, each of them. "She's my compass," said Sam. "She's my moral compass. She'll always be true north." "He's my partner," said Nat. "Life is long. You need a great partner." And at that moment, as Nat and I spoke down by the stage at the ranch, 2 hawks circled overhead. And now, Samuel and Natalie, you have things to say to each other in front of all these people who love you and support you. Would you go first? Okay, let's do this. Oh, I do. No. There you go. There you go. Would you put this one
Samuel, for the last year, or rather, 28 years, I've listened to other wiser people impart sage wisdom about marriage and long-term partnership, the beauty of eternal friendship, the miracle of finding your other. But I've also absorbed the reality of marriage, that it is a long and complex road that often yields the unexpected. And as you well know, that pragmatic outlook left an impression on me, and for a long time, I couldn't wholeheartedly buy into the whole gimmick. In my defense, it does come off as quite the daunting undertaking. But since we first sparred long ago, I've truly started to see things differently. And it was long ago that I knew that you were someone with whom I could earnestly and eagerly take this step. For me, there wasn't just a single moment, but a handful of instances from the very start of our relationship, at which point I knew you were special. A first time was on our second dinner date. Not the one at Flour and Water where I paid for the whole bill. But at Emmy's, when we were nestled in a red patent leather booth and somehow, midway through appetizers, broke into song, harmonizing the lyrics to the Oliver musical together in shocked unison. At that point, having barely understood the majority of what you were saying through your thick, mumbly accent for the duration of our first 3 or 4 dates, this marked a turning point in how I was beginning to understand you. Months later, we traveled to that old funky theater in the outer Richmond and caught a December showing of It's a Wonderful Life. Never has a Christmas passed in the Babcock household without Dave putting that film on in the background of the holiday bacchanal. But this was before you'd come home with the whole fam, and in fact had not ever seen the film in its entirety. Instead, we were just sitting alone in that theater, and within about 10 minutes, right after Harry almost drowns and Mr. Gower is still employing George, I looked over through teary eyes and noticed that you two were choked up fighting tears. I knew then that you were someone who truly had their priorities in the right place. Later, in the first year of being together, I'd returned home from a weekend away with all of my girlfriends. The LA crowd was staying another night in San Francisco and insisted I clean out my closet in front of them, insistent I take out each item one by one as they scathingly reviewed every dress and shirt I owned and forced me to pare down. Surprisingly, Rachel was the meanest of all. Reluctantly, you'd been invited over, and it was the first time you were meeting all of my girlfriends. More specifically, arguably, all of my most honest girlfriends. But unsurprisingly, you were just you, calm, kind, and patient, sitting on the bed for nearly 2 hours, surrounded by loud women yelling over each other while you just hummed Bowie lyrics to yourself and let us all be us. Of all those early signs, however, one of the most cementing and affirming moments in our relationship was traveling to England with you 3 Christmases ago and seeing you for the first real time with your family. Watching you take on the role of big brother to Tom and Hattie and doting and supportive son to your lovely mother moved me in a way I cannot describe. It allowed me to see a side of you that I hadn't seen before and a part of you that continues to impress me day in and day out. Your drive and talent, amazing sense of humor, impressive flexibility, sexy bone structure, supportive nature, truly unparalleled listening skills, and last but certainly not least, your unforgettable mirror face have already changed my life for the better. I am privileged to be your partner, and I vow to be patient and warm and an active participant in our marriage each and every day. I vow to maintain perspective and do my best to keep things new and unpredictable for us within reason. I vow to do my best to avoid nagging and thus pick and choose my battles. I vow to support you in this new exciting chapter of your and our life. Thank you for coming to my garage sale many moons ago. I really am the lucky one. I love you.
And Samuel, do you have something to say?
I wasn't too sure how bespoke American vows work, so very progressively I've just written a letter. More progressively still, it's basically it's a list of suggestions and orders, not orders, stuff to work on. It's called a letter to Natalie Rose, in brackets, on the occasion of her wedding. Keep teaching, Natalie. You're the most naturally gifted educator professionally, personally, so keep on teaching, as the song says. Keep on glowing. In the busy room, continue to be the one who burns the brightest, always. The one who people can't help but drift towards for advice, guidance, love, or simply to hear a story that likely won't end. Continue to insist on calling me every single afternoon at 3:45 p.m. for absolutely no bloody reason. You don't know this, but I wait for that call every day. Continue, please, to then call me again 2 minutes later, to add an appendix to a conversation that didn't really have a body in the first place. Maybe that's what love is in some sort of way, you know. A call just to hear a voice and nothing more than that. Stay curious. Stay that person who was famously curious enough to politely ask the one-armed woman in the bathroom supply store where her other arm had gone to. Stay curious like that. Stop doing accents. Keep your family as brilliant and as bonkers and as loving as my own. I mean, no. Don't get married. But if you must get married, please get married to the fellow who loves you and respects you and just stares at you more than anyone else could ever possibly do. Who will support you and look after you or die trying. Finally, and most of all, and maybe, please keep my life absolutely unimaginable without you. All my love, Samuel.
And so, do you, Samuel Blue Gibson, take Natalie Rose Babcock to be your beloved wedded wife, to cherish from this day forward?
I do.
And do you, Natalie Rose Babcock, take Samuel to be your beloved husband, to cherish from this day forward? Then let us bind these vows within golden circles of eternity. Tom, would you bring the rings? Thank you. And Samuel, please put your ring on Natalie's finger and say, "With this ring I thee wed."
With this ring, I thee wed. I thee wed.
And Natalie, would you put your ring on Samuel's finger and say, "With this ring I thee wed"?
With this ring I thee wed.
And so, would you turn my page for me? Thank you. I know this isn't a big surprise to me. Yeah. But with the powers invested in me by the Universal Life Church and the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife, and you may kiss.
Heavenly shades of night are falling, it's twilight time. Out of the mist your voice is calling, it's twilight time. When purple colored curtains
I'm yours. Here I am, baby. Ooh, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm not baby. Signed, sealed, delivered. You know, baby girl. Signed, sealed, delivered. You know, signed, sealed, delivered. Seen a lot of things in this world. When I touched them, they did nothing, girl, baby. Here I am, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. That good baby set my soul on fire. That's why I know you're my only desire, baby. Here I am, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. Here I am, baby. Ooh, signed, sealed,